Visual encouragement.
Yeah. 3 days. Yeah, we'll see. All right, good evening, everybody. If you would stand and join us in a moment of silence, followed by the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can. This was no goodness. All right, welcome to the Treasure Map meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is an open speaker meeting of AA. We are glad you're all here, especially newcomers. In keeping with our singleness of purpose and our third tradition, which states that the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking, we ask that all who participate confine their discussion to their problems with alcohol. The AA Preamble, reprinted with permission by Grapevine Inc., is a fellowship. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. We want to send a special welcome to anyone here from out of town. If anyone's from out of town, please stand and introduce yourself. All right. Is there anyone here at the Treasure Map meeting for the first time? You can stand and introduce yourself. Oh, all right. Hey, Tom. And is there anyone here at their first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous? All right. Well, we're glad that you're here. And tonight is going to be, tonight's birthday night at the Treasure Map. So we'll celebrate birthdays after the break. And we've got a speaker, and then we may do a little call up after that. But we'll get through this portion here, and then we'll take our break and have a little cake and do birthdays. So let's see. Now I'm going to have Mark come up and read how it works from Chapter 5 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Hey, Mark. Let me see.
Yeah. I'm Mark, alcoholic.
Hey, Mark.
How it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to the simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order, I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. C, that God could and would if He were sought.
All right, thanks, Mark. The 7th tradition states that every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. If you don't carry cash with you, we have an online fulfillment of the 7th tradition on our website. If you do give online, you can take one of these cards and place it in the basket as it's passed. Thank you for your support. Your donations to the Treasure Map meeting support all of our group's activities. In addition, they pay our rent, coffee, snacks, and literature. Plus, we happily support our local Sioux Falls intergroup. South Dakota Regional District 5, statewide area 63, and the General Service Office supporting Alcoholics Anonymous around the world. Now, my reader for the 12 traditions is not here. Can I get a volunteer to come up and read the 12 traditions as we pass the basket? Oh, tiny.
My name's Jim. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Jim.
These are the 12 traditions of AA. 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2, for our group purposes, but one ultimate authority, loving God as He may express Himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. 3, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should accept in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need to always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. 12, anonymity is a spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personality.
Thanks, Jim. All right, thanks, Jim. Let's see if we have any announcements. I don't have any on here. If there are any announcements, they'd be over here at this table. We are meeting after the meeting tonight to talk about a trip to Akron in February to tour Dr. Bob's house and then go to a conference on the, I believe, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th in February. Tonight is birthday night, so we're going to do birthdays before the break. I was wrong before. Bear with me. The Treasure Map group celebrates the birthdays of its home group members on the last Thursday of each month. We celebrate every month for the first 12 months of sobriety and each year thereafter. We believe birthday night is a night of gratitude. We'll present the chip to the home group member and give them a moment to express their gratitude. And after we've presented all the chips, we'll take a break and celebrate with birthday cake before the speakers share tonight. If you'd like to become a home group member and celebrate your sobriety birthday, please stop by the table over here at the break or after the meeting. And I don't have a list, so let's see. Is anybody celebrating a birthday tonight? Any months throughout the year? So 1 through 12 months, and then any years after that. Yeah, right. Christmas is not a good time to get sober, right? Okay, well, with that, then we will just take our break now. We'll celebrate with birthday cake, and we'll come back after that. Thanks. In the fridge.
I brought all my candy down here. I can't eat it. But the different lady was like,
There you go.
yeah, there you go. It's a big one. Hi there. How are you? Good.
Sure.
Nice to meet you. It's your first
There you go.
Hi there, Marla. Can I go check what's girls? I don't. What else is new? Exactly how I
Yeah, they one summer, I never did come back, I was like, my Yeah, Harvard is just like hustle to get off work in the early game. Then like you said, take school, yeah, a little bit, yeah. Yeah, keep the yeah, I saw I saw last night.
I sit on the counter and watch on reindeer or same thing. Yeah, this is my favorite. Yeah.
You don't want to eat it out loud. Like that cow. Yes. Good line. I don't understand.
Tell you now, I know more about stuff. But now we've kind of got that settled. Yeah, we had to
Those were the days.
learn how to communicate everything. Well, by now you know. It's just like I don't do there's a whole project. I also remember had trouble with my watch. I invited my dad to come over and I thought, their parts looking at it. I remember. Exactly related. That's why I learned how to do my home. Yeah, we got it. Yeah, the tree and all that came up too. We didn't get a tree this year because we're in Ecuador. So she was in Ecuador and I bought a lot of guitars.
Over the telephone book, and they're in the, it's in revenue.
I was right away. Well, no, it's me. Go read.
All right, welcome back. So tonight we've got a speaker, and then we're going to do a little call up after that. So please help me welcome Jim.
My name's Jim. I'm an alcoholic. See how that works. Can everybody hear me? Without the microphone, probably. Thanks for asking me to speak. Start off with saying my sobriety date, by the grace of God and miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous, I haven't had a drink since April 25th, 1988, and for that I'm grateful. I have a home group. It's Tuesday's Best Happy Hour. It's Gordon Drive, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. And I have a sponsor. Not only do I have a sponsor, I'm being sponsored. I'm being led through the steps. Big difference. Right? I'll tell you a little bit about my story. I'm going to make this really short. I sobered up when I was 21 years old in the military in the Netherlands. I grew up right in this neighborhood. This is literally my neighborhood I grew up in. And I went in the military as a young man, and it had already changed by the time I joined the military when I was 19. Drinking was no more fun. Consequences led me to join the military. It wasn't out of duty and honor and all that. It was fleeing, you know. They'd get me out of town. They'd get me out of town quick. So I joined the military and off I went. And I ended up in the Netherlands as a 19-year-old man. And up until that point, you know, I'd done a lot of extracurricular stuff than drinking. But when I got overseas, the drinking really took hold. And I tried to drink like other people at 19 years old. I was trying to drink like somebody other than myself. And by the time I turned 21, when I started drinking, I never knew what the end of the sentence was going to look like. Whether I was going to end up in jail, incarcerated, in a fight, naked in a fight in jail. You know, kind of put it all together, you figure it out. But, you know, the big book calls it pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. Now, I don't know what that means, but I know guilt and shame. And I knew I never wanted to do what I was doing. And yet I continued to do it. And I continued to become a person that I didn't ever want to be. And I didn't know it was the alcohol. I honestly didn't know. April 23rd, 1988, just yet one more debacle, just one more drunk. There was nothing different about it at all. Insanely drunk, violent, and I ended up in jail. And they let me out, and I drank one more time, April 24th and April 25th, I believe is my sobriety day. It's what I've counted on since then. I was in a lot of trouble. And that's what I want to talk about is my actual recovery. Because that's my story. I don't have a great drunk log. I was a mess. I was just a mess. April 25th, 1988, I think that was my first day of sobriety. By no stretch of the imagination did I wake up one day and said, I'll go to AA. I want that to be perfectly clear. This whole thing was divine intervention. It had nothing to do with me. A guy asked me, say, you want to go to an AA meeting? And I said, sure. I don't even know what that means. I know I was in a ton of trouble. I had charges pending in the military. And I don't know how long I was sober, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I couldn't tell you. And I went to an AA meeting, and everyone's, my name's so-and-so, and I'm an alcoholic, and I'm so-and-so, and I'm an alcoholic. And I just thought, good for you. And they came around to me and asked, my name's Jim, and I drink a lot. I don't know if I'm alcoholic or not. I just know I drink a lot. I got a ton of troubles. And you guys keep smiling, and there's nothing, absolutely nothing in my life that's positive right now. And I'm 21 years old, and I have no hope. And I don't even know that. I don't even know I don't have hope until after that first AA meeting. And them guys gave me hope. I didn't even know I was hopeless when I walked in there. I don't remember any of the players that were in that meeting. It was the only English-speaking meeting in the Netherlands, in that part of the Netherlands. And my only takeaway was, I don't ever have to live like that again. I don't ever have to live like that again. And that to me was hope, that I could live a reasonable life without alcohol. I want to fast forward a bunch of years. I didn't go to jail. I ended up in California for my 5th year of the military, and my first year of sobriety and my 2nd year of sobriety. And I went to a ton of meetings, and I had a sponsor. He was my buddy, and we went around and went to a lot of meetings. And I got out of the service and I came home here to Sioux Falls. This is my home. And I went to a bunch of meetings, and I met guys that rode motorcycles, and I met a bunch of friends, and we went to a bunch of meetings, and we chain smoked cigarettes, and I was just happy not being drunk. I'll be honest with you guys. I just came here for drunkenness. That's it. I just didn't want to be drunk all the time. I don't know about alcoholism. I know drunkenness. And I was no longer a drunk. And that was good enough for a long time. That was good enough for years. Years I was in this deal. And I had a sponsor. He was my buddy. We chain smoked cigarettes together. And, when life got crazy, I'd just up my meetings. I'd just go to more meetings and more meetings and more meetings, Because meetings are a fix, because that's meeting makers make it. The meetings were the fix. Right? You're feeling blue, go to a meeting. Feeling happy, go to a meeting. Feeling sad, go to a meeting. Feeling lonely, go to a meeting, right? And this is just my story, guys. This is just my story. I was invited to tell my story, so I just tell my story, the warts and all. And I met a girl, and she was not in AA, and we got involved in the church, and that was good too. And pretty soon I just started going to AA less and less and less. And in the 12 by 12, it says in the first tradition, if we deviate too far from the spiritual principles of this program, we'll sicken and die. So I knew, I had that in my pocket. I knew that line of the 12 by 12. And I'll be honest, guys, I read that wrong for years, because I read, if we deviate too far from the spiritual principles, we'll drink and die. It didn't say that. It said we'll sicken and die. That's what it says. I read it wrong for years. Notice I didn't say anything about working steps. I worked just enough steps to maybe not drink. That's it. And I hung out with buddies, and we chain smoked cigarettes, and we went to meetings, and that was all good. And then pretty soon I quit even going to meetings, and because we were involved in church, and me and my wife, and we read on page 153, and I'll read that, but at 17 years sober, that marriage ended. And I was out of the house with, I took all my guns and my motorcycle and everything that meant something to me. Not pictures of my kid, none of that. I just took my guns and my motorcycle and left. And when I got here, consequences brought me to Alcoholics Anonymous. Right? I was in trouble in the military, and consequences got me here. But page 153 says that at some point we'll no longer imagine life with or without alcohol. And I got there at 17 years sober. And it says we'll wish for the end. And I wished for the end. And I was 38 years old, 17 years sober, and I wanted to die. I didn't know anything about AA, because I've tried AA. I've been in AA for all these years. Never done nothing either, by the way. Chain smoke cigarettes and hang out, go to a bunch of meetings, read. I read the book. I know the book. Never did any of it. One day, 17 years sober, my day got black and black. It says, we'll no longer imagine life with or without alcohol. We'll wish for the end. And I got there. And only because of miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous, that I had just a handful of friends around me that sat with me through them days. And I asked the guy to be my sponsor, Tom A. And he said, I'll be your trusted friend. I said, I don't need a trusted friend, man. I need someone to save my life. Right? And we got down and we knelt down together and we did the third step prayer. And I'm telling you, I've just got way too much pride for that. I'm not going to kneel down with a guy and say a prayer out loud. I'm telling you, I was just right there to dying. I will do that today with anybody. I was there. I was there. He said, where you at on the steps? I said, steps? What steps? So we did a third step prayer, and he said, do a 4-step. I said, I don't even have any idea how to do a 4-step. 17 years old. I don't have any idea. I've read that book a bazillion times. Call this guy. I call this guy, and this guy said, what? You want me to help you do a 4-step? I said, yeah. I don't care about it. It doesn't have to be, it's just got to be honest and thorough. It doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to save my life. And I did a 4-step on that marriage, and that was just a start. That was just a start. And I did a 5th step. So that was the prelude of doing the steps. And I Yeah, I guess I gotta tell you what it's like today. Yes, I've done all the steps. And I continually do 10, 11, and 12 today. And I'm not the same guy that I was 10 years ago, 14 years ago, whatever, do the math. But the steps changed my whole life. The steps changed the way I see everything. Not only myself, but my wife and my kids and my God. They've changed everything about me. I don't think of 10, 11, and 12 as maintaining some level of what? I did 4 through 9 to take care of all the wreckage that I caused. The 10, 11, and 12, I think the book tells me 10, 11, and 12 are going to give me a whole new life. A whole new life. Not like 2.0 tiny. Like this is a whole new life. Where I'm going to look at things completely different. And it's only been that true. I appreciate all them years of going to meetings. I don't take anything from that. They kept me sober and out of jails and creating more wreckage than I probably would have done drinking. But the last, I've tried every imaginable way of not doing this. And that's just the truth. Not going to meetings, not having a sponsor, not having service commitments, not making time for new guys. And at the end of the day, it's all of that. It's all of that. And I don't ever want to forget, nor do I think God will ever let me forget them black days. Because that was the blackest days of my life. And when I speak at treatment centers, which I do it a couple times a month, I always hope people are in them black days. Because God truly used me. Or, he became visible to me then. When the days were the blackest. And there just didn't seem like any hope. That's what it took to get through to me. And today I'm grateful for that. I don't want to go back there. Right? So I don't know what I got to do today. I don't know what I got to do. I don't know what 10, 11, and 12 are going to lead me into today. I'll do anything. I'll do anything. If you want to get down and do a third step in the middle of Caribou Coffee, I'll do it. Let's do it. I will do anything. Wade asked me earlier about my Christmas. I've never had such a blessed Christmas. Ever. The kids, the grandkids, the friends that I have, I couldn't imagine. Couldn't imagine it. And I've chased girls and money and motorcycles, and I've chased all that stuff. Today it's my family. It's you guys. It's the men in Alcoholics Anonymous. I look out here and I see guys I've known for years that I just truly love. That's what Alcoholics says today. Alcoholics Anonymous. Thanks for letting me be here. I get to pick somebody. Unzip.
I had a feeling that was going to happen. I thought I better take off my leather jacket so I didn't look like a hood. I'm having a midlife crisis. My name's Dan. I'm an alcoholic. I don't even ride bike, but I'm in a band now, so I figured the leather jacket was okay. But my sister is a motorcycle enthusiast, and she said I look like a noob in my new leather jacket. So I've had the pleasure of actually playing music with Tiny, and let me tell you, that's Jim's nickname. I'm sorry. I've had the pleasure of playing music with Jim, and Jim can play the drums. And first time I played drums with Jim, I had to go buy a new amp. And so did Matt, who is also one of the brothers in recovery. We both had to get bigger stuff because he plays very loud. it's been an honor to get to know guys like Jim. When I came into AA, you know, they were the guys that were laying the foundation for me, you know, the people that saved my life. When I came in here, Jim talked about, I like to call it the ism part of alcoholism. You know, when I first came to AA, I saw everything through the spectrum of what alcohol had done to me, because that's all I knew. I started drinking when I was 15, as a young guy like Jim. And for whatever reason, it became an answer to a lot of my problems, so I thought. And I finally, it got the better of me by the time I was 28. And I had that jumping off moment right the day after my last drink, where my pickup was parked up by my ditch. I smashed a bunch of stuff in my house. Apparently was fighting the furniture. I don't think I won. Yeah, there was broken windows, and the thing of it wasn't like that was the first time it happened. It'd been happening way too much, to the point where I was basically sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I was actually contemplating suicide, because, like Jim said, I couldn't imagine life with it. And I tried to quit on my own. I was 18 the first time I tried to quit on my own. Tried to quit again when I was 20. 21, and those periods got to get shorter and shorter, you know, where I could say so. I came into AA, and I really liked the fellowship. But then every time I would get in those meetings and somebody would go, well, God this and God that, I'd be like, ooh. It was somewhere between an atheist and an agnostic when I came in. And it took me a while to get open-minded enough to want those 12 steps. I know there's a lot of people, there's a lot of different ways to sponsor people, and some people will have them get on the steps right away. How it happened with me is I had about 4 months. That's all I needed, was 4 months of being dry. And it took 4 months where I could feel the ism, which was tons of resentment, fear, you know, call it anxiety, dishonesty. And the dishonesty I was going through was all the lies I was telling myself, you know. And it's not that I would say I wasn't lying to you. If I am lying to myself, I am lying to you, because I'm living a lie. But every time I'd see that dishonesty, I'd think, well, I must be lying to other people. And it was this honesty I had within myself, and the selfishness and the self-centeredness. There's a guy named Dave H. that goes to Southside. Dave had about 3 years sober. He's still clean. He's doing really good today. He's still a treasure member of AA. But I'd come to a meeting at Southside, and he'd say, how are you doing, Dan? He's got this real gruff voice. Oh, my name's Dave H. and I'm an alcoholic. And he's really cool. He looks just like Sam Elliott, by the way. I thought he was really cool, so I thought maybe sobriety wouldn't be so bad, because that guy's still cool. But he'd always ask me how I was doing, so then I'd give him this diatribe about how I was mad at my family, because I'm in a family business, and there were a bunch of jerks, and some girl was mistreating me, so she's a jerk, and this person I know, and blah, blah, blah. Everybody was jerks, and life wasn't fair, and poor me. And he'd nod his head and say, oh, I see you. And then he'd, whatever, go away. I wasn't paying attention, because it was all, you know, it was into me. And this went on for about maybe 6 months. And so one time I come into the meeting, and he says, how are you doing, Dan? And I start going on my diatribe about poor me. And he goes, yeah, it's all about me. And he walked away. And the light bulb came on. I was like, oh, that's what they mean by selfish. I should have asked him how he was doing. You know, I mean, it took me a while for this stuff to see it, because I only saw everything through me being a drunk and the escapades and waking up and, you know, like naked fighting and all the above, right? I was in Morris, Minnesota one time, and I woke up in the middle of a blackout driving my car. I was missing a shirt and a shoe. And I thought I was in Crook, South Dakota. It was about 300 miles difference, so yeah, I can relate to that. At any rate, it was the starting to feel the alcoholism. This, you know, it's said in the big book, it's a threefold illness. So it's physical, right? Once I start a drink, I can't stop. I take a drink, it takes me. mental obsession. I put it away, and I always go back to it, like a jaywalker, right? Because I tried to swear. I swore it off. It's like, I got to be done with this. And there'd always be some trivial excuse, or I'd get a case of, hell with it. And but the spiritual aspect, it took me a while to feel what that was about. Because like I said, I started drinking at 15. That's all I knew. I had adolescence, alcoholism. And now I'm 28 years old. I went to a kegger in 1987. I came out of it in 1999. Hi, Southside. I heard I missed something called the 90s. So I had to learn. I thought I knew what it was to be a man and to be an adult. And that was all taught to me, what that really meant, by the people in AA. Now, it was presented very well by my parents. I actually had very loving parents. The only thing that my parents are responsible is maybe passing on the gene, because of both my grandfathers, who were diehard alcoholics. I mean, they literally killed both of them. But my parents had skipped it. And I was taught right and wrong from an early age. I just wasn't good at it. I didn't, I wasn't very good at it. I had a desire to do it. I worked with a counselor one time. He said, you know the difference between an alcoholic and a sociopath? And I said, I don't know, it's hard to tell sometimes. He goes, well, there's a key difference. He says, somebody who's a sociopath has absolutely no conscience. An alcoholic has a conscience, but he just can't shake it. And that really stuck with me, because that was a lot about, Jim was talking about the fourth and the fifth step, where I start to reconcile that part of my life. Not just the things I did because I was a drunk, but the way I see the world, because that stuff's left over now that I'm sober. And especially 8 and 9. I mean, I can't talk enough about that. I'm going to finish up and give it up to some other poor fool, but or wise member of AA, I should say. I had a really good Christmas too, and it did start out good. I went to my mom and dad's. My dad's 83, my mom's 80. And my dad's got congestive heart failure, which I only found out about a little while ago. They kind of keep it a secret. And my mom says, I think this might be the beginning of the end. That's the first thing she said to me when I came to Christmas, but I kind of get it. She's got to say it because it's important. But it was just like, and I had to stop and think about all the things I was grateful for, because I have some friends in AA that didn't get to reconcile that stuff with their parents. And my dad has 2 sons that are alcoholics, and one I've got 20 years thanks to AA, and I have a brother, older brother, who's got 2 years. And I got to just stop and say, I'm going to feel good about that. I'm going to spend some time with him and be affectionate. Actually kiss my dad. And my dad and I were not, we didn't even hug. Like our hugs are like in that movie, you step around this or they can't really do it. That's kind of how my dad and I were not affectionate, but I did that. And my nephews and I got to put on a little musical performance. And I got a nice video of my mom and dad watching me with my nephews doing that. And it was like the best Christmas present I've ever had. That I felt like I got to happen. And that's all because of this and this roadmap, treasure map. I mean, because it's leading me to, I agree with Sandy, it's leading you to something else. Whatever that else is for you is your business. I'm just incredibly grateful. And it wouldn't have happened without, it was like Tiny Meeting too. I just came for the meetings because I wanted to be dry. But there's so much more to it. And that happens by doing the steps. All of them. And that's, everybody says the 4th step's so hard. It's like, really? I thought the 9th step was tough. I mean, I can tell you all kinds of crap that's wrong with me, but to have to really go and say, here's that shit I stole from you, and what can I do to make that right? And here's all that crappy stuff I said about you, and this is why I said it. I should have never, that was the tough stuff, and changing. But it's worth it. If you want the rest of the program, all that good stuff you're seeing, that comes after that. It did for me. And the book kind of says that too. The 4th step is if you're on that and you think it's tough, you'll be working that stuff for the rest of your life. All of them really, but they're worth it. They're worth it because they got me to what that I experienced on Christmas with my dad. And, who should I pick? Let me put my glasses on. Gabby, you're sitting up front.
Well, I'm Gabby, I'm an alcoholic. Do I just speak about my experience briefly? Okay. Well, I guess I started drinking around 15, but part of my story was drugs, and that's kind of where it began more for me. And then around 19, I decided that the drugs were becoming a problem, and so I kind of just decided I was going to drink. It was socially acceptable, and so that became my next solution. And so for years I drank, and by the time I was 19, I'd also been in and out of treatment for drugs and in legal trouble. And anyways, and so I'm sorry, I'm not a very fluent speaker, but just all kinds of bad things kept happening in my life. When it should have been obvious that my life was unmanageable, I still found a way to deny that these things were a problem for me. And eventually it progressed to a point where I was in that really dark place where I was just ready to, I couldn't imagine life with or without alcohol, and I just didn't want to live anymore. And after a failed suicide attempt, I remember waking up the next day wondering why I was waking up, and but also at the same time realizing that I didn't want to die and that I really had a lot to be grateful for. And I remember that day laying in bed praying to a God that I hadn't talked to in years and just begging him not to let me die. And that was kind of the point for me where I turned around and I got back to AA, and I found a sponsor immediately because I knew that's what you were supposed to do. But at this time, I wasn't really willing to do whatever it takes. I mean, I think at first I kind of was, but it sort of faded. And so I stopped really, I take half of my sponsor's suggestions, and I don't know, I ended up firing her eventually, and I stopped going to meetings, and then inevitably I went back out, and it didn't take long. And again, I came back to AA and got a different sponsor this time. And I got through all 12 of the steps with her for the first time ever. And I remember that was the first time I really experienced the spiritual experience that they talk about in the book. And it was, I don't know, when I saw people with long-term sobriety, I always thought it was some sort of fantasy. I couldn't imagine myself being in that place, And so when I got through the steps, and it just gradually continued to get better and better in life, and everything continued to fall into place. But it wasn't until I was willing to do whatever it took with my sponsor and whatever she told me. So I don't know. That's my experience. It worked for me once I was willing to work for it. So thanks, guys. Oh, do I have to nominate somebody still? Okay, I'm gonna go with Mike.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Donnelly. I'm an alcoholic. And thanks for being here tonight. We weren't exactly sure. This is one of our least, as we track these things, one of the least populated meetings that we're at. So we always have to be a call at the one after Christmas. But we're full. I mean, I appreciate everybody being here. This is great, and thanks for coming. And it's great to see faces continue to come back. That's a great thing. It really is. We're going to work really hard this year to get really good speakers to come and tell their story. And want to invite you all to our anniversary. That's February 13th. You're all welcome. Please come to that. We'd love to have you, and reach out to your friends. Everybody's welcome. We're bringing in a good friend of mine, a guy named Cliff G, and his wife Lori from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And they're going to come up and tell their story. So it'll be good. Thank you for sharing, and all of you guys, Jimmy and Anzi, thank you. I was thinking out there when I was listening to you guys talk, and we have this odd sharing of experience here, right? Like it's crazy. Because I got sober when I was 24, which is pretty young. I started being a moron at about 12. Didn't look like it to me, but to rational, normal, sensible human beings, yeah, he's nuts. And it just took off. I did 12 years of drinking and some using, and more drinking than using by far. But and that's my hook. I love booze. I loved it then, and I'll bet you, if I let myself get crazy enough, or if I walk away from the grace of God and I get crazy enough, that's probably the right way to say it. I bet you I would love it again for a brief moment. I have rarely felt things in my life that have just absolutely released the tension in me like booze does. It clears the head, takes away the worry. I finally have community with people. I feel connected to them. I have insecurities like probably everybody in this room, and they vanish. They vanish. Not at the end of the evening when I'm laying underneath the table, but the first 45 minutes, man. There is something beautiful about that 3 to 4 beer buzz. It's magnificent to me. Like I love that, and that's going to kill me because I can't stay there. I've never been able to stay at 3 to 4 beer buzz. Not once. I mean, the music's better. I have a full head of hair, one chin. Like life is working, Can't stay there. Could never stay there. And as I was listening to you guys talk, it's amazing the amount of people over the 28 years that I've been involved in Alcoholics Anonymous that I've met, and the small group of people that have stayed. What a crime. What a crime. And if you poll, and my first sponsor, Joe Friday, told me to take a poll. He said, I want you to go to people with 5 years or more, and I want you to ask them the same question that you ask people in newcomer meetings. And the first thing is, the only question I want you to ask them is this: how do you stay sober? He says in the newcomer meetings, those repeat people, God bless them, no mockery at all. Listen to the answers that they give. And then go find people with 5 years or more, 10 years or more, 25 years or more, and listen to those answers. I'm telling you, they're fundamentally different answers. They're fundamentally different answers. The first group, what I found when I did that poll was I found this: meetings. Going to meetings. Going to meetings. Not drinking. 2 extraordinarily good things. Absolutely can't deny that both of those are really important to sobriety, especially the not drinking part. That's a big part of the sobriety thing, right? But when I sat down with the other people and I asked them too, their list was longer. Their list started with things like sponsorship, step work, prayer, meditation, sponsoring others. And it wasn't in the first group. It was almost never in the first group. And it was almost every single time in the second group. And so it's funny, we come to AA, and I love the chapter, There's a Solution. It's so good. And it tells me on that page, tells me on the first page, that I could never be joined to you if it was only drinking that was our connective tissue, wouldn't happen, right? What connects us? The fact that we can join in brotherly and harmonious action, right? That we have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and join in brotherly and harmonious action. And the only thought I have for everyone tonight is, are you in the brotherly and harmonious action that we're trying to do? Or are you listening to it? Like, I used to go and I would listen to these CDs, and there would be people like Sandy and Bob, right? And my sponsor, Don, and Joe and Charlie, and Johnny Harris, and all these sort of, Clancy, all these sort of iconic figures, right? And I would go to meetings and I would repeat what they said in the meeting, because I liked to feel like I was saying something that was going to help other people. So I would say things that wasn't my experience. I hadn't done it at all. And I would just be vomiting up lies in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous. My favorite place to do that was in a meeting on honesty. That was like the best place to vomit up these lies, because everybody needed to hear this, right? What I was missing was the brotherly and harmonious action. I wasn't doing it to the full extent that I should have been doing it. And I didn't know how to tell people that, because I thought everybody did that. We heard tonight from Jimmy that that's not the case. We heard from Unzi, right? Yeah, myself. Nobody does this thing perfectly. And that's why I have to be in the middle, right? I like this guy, Paul. He wrote a bunch of letters years ago, and there's one line that he says that's just great. And he says, a ring of three is not easily broken. He's referencing something back to the Psalms. And the point of it is that if I have to be in the middle, right? I have to have somebody ahead of me who's pulling me forward. I have to have my peers, but I also have to have my arm back, reaching out to the folks that don't have what I have yet. Like, who cares if I have it? I want us to have it, right? I can't make anybody do this, right? But if I only had it and my sponsor only had it, as much as I love him, it would be a lonely life. What fills my life today are the men that I sponsor. I mean, I'll do whatever my sponsor tells me to do. That's true, right? But I have to be giving this thing away, and more than just participation in a meeting. Sitting across the table from a willing participant, right? And the willingness is shown by them showing up across the table, not by them saying, I'm going to be across the table, like actually being across the table and cracking that book, or talking or listening, right? With my heart, and trying to share with them what I was taught by men that are much smarter than I'll ever be. The reason that sponsorship is so important is because I'm an egomaniacal maniac who doesn't want to tell people I don't know how to do this thing. And if I can have the humility to sit on the other end of the table and learn from someone and then do it, not just hear them, but actually do what they tell me to do and apply it to my life, and my life changes, I gain faith and confidence in the actions that they told me to do. Somebody tells me to do a 4-step, and I think that would probably work for me. And then after doing a 4-step, I think, I don't feel like that worked. And he says, well, that's because you got to do 5 in order to get the results of 4. I think that might work for me. No, go do 5. Right? Well, I did 5 and it's better, but like, I don't know, is this it? No, 6 through 8. 6 through 8, some prayers. We got some prayers for you. I'll bet you those would work for me. No. Do the prayers. Right? And step 9, I agree, man. Step 9 is the money step. It's where it all comes together. So I don't know about you, but I know that I've been broken as a human being way before I ever took a drink. Way before I ever took a drink. And I relied on booze to help me anesthetize that and pretend that it was okay, and I used booze in the way I now use God. I have an ache. Please heal that ache. Right? Now, I never said prayers to Budweiser, but I'd crack that beer and take a couple of sips, and I could feel it soothe me. Anybody with me on that? What if there was a way to fix the very thing that was always broken in me. I have the courage to do that. Maybe, maybe not. But if I'm in a group of people with someone who's ahead of me and some folks who are even with me and some folks who are behind me, and if we all move ahead and do it together, I can suck the courage out of you when I don't have it myself. I can go to you and talk about my experiences, and you can tell me about yours, and that can edify me in a way to encourage me to actually do the work and not just talk about the work or not just discuss the work or, God forbid, study it so I know it so well I don't feel like I have to do it, right? This is all about action, not knowledge. I sponsored a guy one time, I'll close with this. He couldn't read. He was illiterate. And he hid in school about it, and he hid from his family on it, and he took a crappy job because that's all he thought he was worth. And when I met him, I told him to read the first chapter, right? Read Bill's story. I thought maybe he could identify with it, which is why it's there. And I said, did you read the first chapter? And he goes, yeah. And he just tell he was lying. It was like, no, I didn't, right on his face. And so I thought this would be a great time, since I had 3 years of sobriety, to belittle this guy, right? Because I'm superior, clearly, right? I mean, I know he didn't do it. Now I'm going to make fun of him. I had no idea why he didn't do it. So I sort of mocked him a little bit. And I said, remember when his parents threw him in the closet and locked the door? Like, that was terrible. I would have drank too. Of course, that's not in Bill's story anyway, right? And he goes, yeah, that was a really bad thing. And I was like, got ya. AA ain't about got ya. That was an arrogant 3 years sober kid, 27 years old, who thought he knew everything. And when he looked at me and tears started rolling down his face and he said, Mike, I can't read. I found the value in sitting across the table from another person and reading it to him. Got him the big book on tape. And that guy did the steps and he got sane and he learned how to read. See, if he came here to just drink, just not drink, if he came here for just sobriety, he wouldn't be able to read today. Wouldn't be able to hold a better job. Wouldn't be able to love his family the way he can now. And the only way you can have what he has is if you do the work. Not talk about it, not read about it, not study it. All those are great things. But do it. Do it when we're not at a meeting. Merry Christmas. Pat, would you share a little bit and we'll close up? Or Doug, maybe Doug. Doug, would you come up? Doug's in Minneapolis. You good? Doug, would you come? Doug's from Minneapolis. Would you ever hear from Doug? We've heard Pat. We love Pat. He's a great man. He's one of my best friends on the planet. Doug, would that be okay? Doug, come on up, buddy.
You want to come up and do it with me? Do a tag team. Hi, everyone. My name is Doug Hall. I'm an alcoholic. Oh, man. Grace of God Fellowship Alcoholics Anonymous. Folks in rooms just like this, I have found it necessary to take a drink since March 15th, 1994. It's great to be back here. This is one of my home away from home groups now. My home group's in the Twin Cities Thursday nights. And I try to get in the habit of going to meeting on Thursday nights. And I was fortunate enough to stand up here not that long ago, just a couple months ago, and share my experience, strength, and hope. Jim, thank you. Thank you. Resonated with me for an awful lot for a number of things. Unfortunately, the first thing that resonated with when you said you got sobered up early, then you went to all those meetings for all those years, and you went to meetings if you were happy, you went to meetings if you were sad, you went to meetings to smoke some more cigarettes, you just caught an extra meeting, I caught an extra drink. And I caught an extra drink, and I caught an extra drink for all those reasons. Because if I was angry, I'd have a couple of drinks and not be so angry at you. You know, if I was feeling a little giddy or happy, I'd have a couple of drinks to celebrate that I was feeling good. You know, and if I was feeling a little down, or I just have a couple extra drinks to try to pick myself up. If my back was hurting a little more today, I'd have a couple extra drinks to medicate myself from the pain. So I drank for a long period of time without a lot of consequences, and figured I didn't want to have a lot of consequences, until it quit working. Okay. Until it quit working, and I became a sloppy drunk. And it just wasn't fun. So when I spoke here a couple months ago, I think I got lost all the way down the rabbit hole on a bunch of men's stuff. And I stayed right there on that ninth step of men's and some of those things. And I really didn't talk about, I don't think I did, what this year's been like for me. I was earlier this year, I had the distinct pleasure of going with my sponsor down to a memorial service for my grand sponsor, Howard P. in Arizona, who passed away. And Howard was one of those iconic members of Alcoholics Anonymous that if you wanted to take a picture of an eccentric person, he'd be right up there on the top of the list. And Howard was probably the most inventory savvy person that I had ever had the pleasure of meeting. And he was an engineer that owned a comedy club in retirement. He just was this eccentric man. And one of the things that Howard did on a regular basis was he changed up his meditation practice. And if you got to know Howard well enough, he'd tell you that he meditated for 30 minutes a day for 30 years. And he didn't miss a day for 30 years. And every 2 years, he'd figure out a different way to change up his practice, just so he could improve his spiritual journey. I'm just telling you as a backstory, because I'm in the airplane coming home from my sponsor, and I'm going, I really understand when I go to these big meetings, Alcoholics Anonymous on birthday night, where people all of a sudden don't, there's these people with 20 plus years that engage in recovery, 20 plus. There's people standing up. In this big gap between 7 and 20, there's people aren't standing up, people aren't in there. And the newcomers, between the 1 and then the 1 to the 5 year, there's lots of people. I said, I get it. I've been getting real bored this past year. I haven't been feeling it. I could very well see with 25 years of recovery how I could drift away from the program of recovery and not come back. And we chatted a little bit about it, but not much because we got on other topics. And I got a phone call a few days later from him. And he said, I don't think I did justice for you as your sponsor. I'd like you to come over to my house within the next 2 days. And we're going to talk about that subject we were talking about in the airplane about you drifting away. And I came over just so I could get an attaboy talk from him. Okay, you're doing the right thing. We all go through this thing. The journey's not linear. The sponsor, if you have a sponsor, we get those attaboy talks on occasion. They'll kick you on the back and get going. The truth remains, I'm a more grateful member of Alcoholics Anonymous at the end of the year than I was at the beginning of the year, because and nothing really has changed. The universe conspired to keep me busy, because when I said that I was bored and I felt disconnected and I could see about not going back, the phone started ringing. I started getting people coming out of the woodwork coming at me. Mike talked about sponsorship. I think I sponsor 8 or 10 guys today that I didn't at the beginning of the year. Some men with 10 years more sobriety, a couple of guys with 10 years more sobriety than I have. And that in and of itself it's been an interesting journey for me this last 10 years. First time a man with 10 plus more years of sobriety came to me and asked me to sponsor him. And I didn't realize what he was doing. He told me to do it. I asked him, why do you want me to do it? And he said, Doug, I buried 3 men, 3 sponsors already. I want somebody that's going to outlive me. So I got that going for myself. But the fact remains is that we can call each other on our stuff and move forward. Howard, one of the things that I did this year was I got a fresh big book instead of the one I've carried around for 25 years. One with no marks on it. One that I had to mark up and go take those actions for myself one more time with a fresh pair of eyes at it with some new people. I have another group that I started this year. It's called the Half a Howard Meeting. And the reason why we call it the Half a Howard Meeting is because we meditate for 15 minutes at the start of the meeting. Half of what Howard did every year. I'm a very lazy man, and the only thing that I can quote out of our 12 by 12 is my favorite passage in all of our books, and I'll leave with this line. I won't leave with the line, I'll tell you the story behind it. And that line is, procrastination is nothing more than a 5-syllable word for sloth. Okay? That's that snark, Jim, that sticks right at me because it cuts me right to the quick. Okay? And I know that if I'm committed to have to sit down with you and 4 other men or 10 other men and have to do this thing, and we're calling the meeting a half-hour meeting, that's going to be one more chance that I'm going to get a chance to get meditation at a fixed time in my life without rationalizing, letting my brain start to work and my brain start drifting by getting busy, and cut it shorter from 20 minutes to 15 minutes to 10 minutes to 5 minutes to look at my watch and boy, gee, I'm awful busy again. The biggest thing I'm grateful for this year in Alcoholics Anonymous, in my life, in recovery, is I'm very grateful for those disciplines that I put in my life in my first year of recovery. And that is put my Thursday nights at 8 o'clock in my calendar, okay? I put my service commitments in my calendar. And it kept me connected, so those men who reached out to me this year knew how to find me, because I wasn't at home sucking my thumb, whether I wanted to be here or not. I showed up at 8 o'clock on Thursday nights. Thanks for having me out.
All right, thanks everybody. Well, I hope everybody has a happy new year, and we'll see you all next week. Like Mike said, we've got a good lineup of speakers coming in the first quarter of the year, and we're excited to get going on that. If everybody would stand and close the meeting with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Keep coming back, it works.
I